These are the topics: cloud infrastructure, organization. So we were speaking about a lot of things like redundancy and resilience. Probably you should have either googled it or gone through any dictionary. So before this, I would like to bring up the benefits of cloud and what it means. So I'll give you some keywords and details of each and every topic. I'll be taking a bit lengthy class today. Anyone having any difficulty? Because we didn't cover some topics yesterday. I'll try to make it fast, but since you have to listen and understand it, I'll be going a bit slower. Okay. First of all, we'll see what are all the services offered by cloud and how we can, because we have seen what is infrastructure as service, what is platform as service, and what is software as service. So we'll try to categorize the offerings of Azure now, and we'll try to put them. So this may become a very important notes for you. Infrastructure as service. This is further to our discussion on Thursday. So we have compute. Compute means processors. We would have seen i3, i5, or i7 when we are working with on-premise. So when we have a data center running, we may have different configuration of processors with multi-cores, octa-core, and many more, Xeon or Xenon. So we have these octa-core, Xeon, and these are data centers, data center processors that we have, and in the cloud, with the kind of offerings they are having, they may have different kind of processors that they'll be running there at the background, and we can only feel the services that they are offering. We really are not bothered about that. We are bothered about the kind of speed or the processing power that we are seeing in terms of the number crunching or data crunching that we are experiencing. Okay, so compute is about processing, the other one is storage, the third one is networking. Storage, we have basically two kinds of storages. One is HDD, other one is SSD. As you know, HDD is a kind of disk and spindle. We would have been reading about this, or when you go to any computer classes, that's what they'll start with. Hard disk, they you have some kind of something called spindle, a disk over which you have a pin, something like gramophone record, some highly refined version of gramophone record, on which your data will be stored. This is a hard disk. This, like, you can see and feel if you have a kind of desktop or a laptop, you can see, or you can if you connect an external USB based hard disk drive, you can see that there is some booming sound if you are able to access data into from it, or you are able to put data into that. So the spindle will be running at 5000 RPM. You can feel that. So it's a kind of, there is some latency with that, because it's a kind of hardware wherein it will be running at 5000 RPM, and header will go and point to that particular location, try to read or write data into it. So it is a limited kind of memory when it comes to speeds for the purpose of accessing, reading, and writing. If you have to read and write data on a hard disk drive, HDD, then it will be associated with some kind of latency, means delay, because it is limited. It's only 5000 RPM. Also, if there is a sudden drop of power, like if you press the power button of a hard disk, or if you are pressing the power button of a laptop or a desktop, which means that you are giving an abrupt end to the power supplied to the hard disk, like just by pulling the USB also. There may be some damage to the hard disk drive internally. That may cause the things to get more aged, which means that it will have some performance issue. You will see some bad sectors there if you do that kind of thing. So you can see that a limitation there, along with the limitation of the built-in hardware. Built-in hardware design is in such a way that it gives some delay. So probably you can understand that. If you want more explanation, I can give. I think this much is sufficient. It is not too much and it is not too less. Yeah. And you have SSD, which is completely kind of electronic memory, and it's a permanent storage. Unlike RAM, RAM is a volatile. You can put that along with processing, because this the RAM memory, in the RAM memory, the data will live only when there is power supply. Once the power supply is gone, it's volatile, it will go away, it will not stay there. That's exactly the reason we tend to save the Excel files or Word files when we are trying to edit or create a new document or Excel sheet. That's the reason. So whenever you click save, the data will get saved from RAM to hard disk or SSD. You can see SSD configurations more recently, and we have the offerings of both HDD and SSD on the cloud, and you have networking also. All of these will be abstracted away from you. Abstracted away from us. Abstraction refers to act of representing essential features without providing background details. This is an abstraction is a OOPS concept, but really we're not worried about the OOPS definition here. But the real definition of abstraction, what it means, how the cloud service providers are providing the compute, what hardware they are using, how they are cooling, how they are maintaining the cooling infrastructure, or the underlying power infrastructure, or the underlying building where it is. They really don't tell us. Probably you also don't know. There, as far as I know, it is there in Hyderabad, recently started, but unofficially some people were discussing that it is there located in so and so area. I can tell you, but you can go and refer it somewhere. One of my friend, I'm an electrical engineering background. One of my friend was working as a infrastructure installation engineer there in, I think, in Hyderabad Kokapet. They have started the cloud infrastructure there, and recently he moved to Mumbai also. So they are setting up in India the cloud infrastructure, Microsoft or Google or something. I'm really not aware, but he worked as an engineer to give 5x redundant power supply installation. 5x, which means that 5 different power sources are on standby mode. You can just assume this is a kind of electrical power backup requirement they have. And one of my friends happened to be there and install this infrastructure. So how this 5x backup is there, the technical details you will not, you will only see that you can rely on it. The power will never go away. Even if there is a national grid failure, they have the backup, or they have the power generators assets maintained there. They have the cooling infrastructure. Some of people I heard saying this, that they are putting the compute, processors. Processors will have a lot of heat in it. You can see in your laptop, if you see, a lot of heat would be generated, and that will be dissipated with a fan or some kind of infrastructure. And if you are thinking about cloud kind of infrastructure which is having large number crunching and processing, you can see the amount of, you can just imagine the amount of heat that it will be dissipating. That heat should be radiated away. I heard some of people saying that they'll put the processors into some kind of liquid, and that liquid will take away all the heat instead of maintaining air conditioning within. So they would have been having different kind of infrastructure, which would increase or optimize the lifetime of the compute infrastructure they are having. Because if it is exposed too much to heating, it will degrade. So all the kind of arrangement to get the best or the optimal performance out of the hardware they would be having, because they would have done a lot of R&D and invested a lot of money into that infrastructure. Because if the cooling infrastructure is not maintained, that may cause some fire accidents. It may be disaster prone, which is also the cause of concern for the people who are taking the services. It may pose some kind of reliability issues, right? So I think they were taking all of that. State of art facilities will be there inside the data centers. That's what they say, definitely, because that's where we have the reliability term coming from. Reliability. So how reliable that infrastructure is? If something is failed, what is the chances of failure? How much time will it fail? And if it is failing, and if I have some kind of banking 24/7 services deployed on the cloud, how will my customers get impacted? This is the kind of reliability questions that we'll be having. And they will be giving only essential features of it without providing the background details. So this is abstracted away, is one thing. And you can see infrastructure as a service. You can define what is at the high level. It is segregated into three parts, that is compute, storage, and network. Yeah. We will see what is platform as a service. Once infrastructure is rock solid, which means that it is available all the time. And our next level, or in that stack, something which is sitting above the infrastructure is a platform. Platform is a kind of, if you say .NET runtime or whatever these runtimes that we call, over and above which our software, pieces of software runs, or we have big kind of softwares like SQL Server or .NET or Java runtime, or you can name it, whatever is the thing which is necessary for a kind of big software to run. We call them as platform. You would have heard people saying, what is the platform on which you are working? If I say SQL, on what platform? MS SQL, Oracle SQL, we call PL SQL, or any other thing. If I say SQL is a common language. We have these platforms which we have, which are available in the market. We can install them and adopt them, so that this platform will be serving us. So from this we can say what is platform. So if a service provider is giving along with the infrastructure, he is giving all the platforms installed and providing it to you, including operating system. Even before platform or any software, operating system is a one. you may have. So if we are practicing hardcore DevOps, then they may want Linux and they may want Ubuntu, and they may have Microsoft. And institutes like DRDO, if they want to put their data and if they want to make use of cloud, they will have their own custom operating system, which is highly secure. So this will not come into platform as a service, because this we are doing custom build, and we are so institutes like DRDO will take infrastructure as service, and over and above that they will install their own custom software. So, but Linux, Ubuntu, and Microsoft, as well as Microsoft SQL, these are the things which will be available as images to you, and you can just install them there, and that will be maintained by the cloud service provider. So this is what we call this arrangement is what we call as platform as service, and the things which comes under this is OS or operating system, programming languages, like support to the programming language. If you say Python, then you should have some kind of pip install. Someone probably aware about Python, they should have heard this term. Until you do pip install, your import will not work. You will be importing some libraries. So this is what we call programming language or support to the programming languages. This falls in the category of platform. Testing tools like Selenium or anything that you may be using for the purpose of testing. And integration runtimes. So like softwares responsible for running our code. Ultimately, this is the software which will be orchestrating the operation of the software. And we have deployment softwares, a lot of open source tools like Jenkins, Ansible, Docker. All of these are categories of deployment software. So if we are running it as on-premise system, then our team should have a hard disk maintained with them. They'll be having a collection of different versions of operating system, different programming language, because everything is secure, right? Everything is secured within the infrastructure. Even IT support, if you have to have any software or anything installed, you will not have any rights. You will have to raise a ticket with the IT department, and they will be maintaining all of these softwares in some kind of drive. They'll copy whatever the version that you wanted into your instance or VM, and they'll install. This is what IT support does, right? The same thing is available as images. You do not have to take the help of IT. If you're granted certain level of permissions which allows you to install these, you should be able to do that from the kind of images which are available in the cloud. So the cloud service provider will be taking care of all of this infrastructure in an arrangement called platform as a service. We are reiterating here everywhere it is a service as a service. So it is a service. It has to be remembered that it is a service. It's not a product. If it is a product, then we should have some kind of administrative setup who can administer the product. So product is something that which will not which you can't use it.
Hi,
You have to have.
Sorry for the disturbance. Can I ask you a question?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, actually, what is the main difference between the cloud architect and Azure Data Factory engineer? So the same content or concepts, it will be referred to both the same, or it would be different in both.
No, actually, why we have to know all of this? The reason is, I'll give you one best example. We'll be seeing practical details. So some things may not be clear to you now, right at this point of time. So probably you would have seen, who knows SSIS or any kind of setup like Python based ETL or SSIS based ETL or anything. You have to have one kind of VM separately available, and you need to have the platform softwares installed in that, and then you have to build your application over and above that, and then you have to run that application, say ETL application. So for one ETL, even if you have to run one ETL, then you should have some upfront investment like hardware as well as software installation, and over and above that, you should be able to build an ETL or run an ETL. But in cloud, you do not have to have VM. You can only instantiate the Azure Data Factory, which comes to you as a service. Instantiate means create an instance of, and that you can customize. That instance you can customize and run it, which means that you will be able to see Azure Data Factory only on the portal. Underlying VM or underlying machine, you really don't know. You really don't require it. Whatever is required for you is to some software or some place wherein you can build your ETL pipeline. That is Azure Data Factory. You don't have some wrappers over and above the Azure Data Factory, like platform software installation, hardware installation. All of this is not required. Just plug and play kind of arrangement is here. So here, why we are knowing all of this is that as a service, how the service is guaranteed. Service is guaranteed through SLAs. As a project leadership or project management, they will have SLAs, and these SLAs will be guaranteed by cloud. And if any deviation, anomalous deviation, unexpected deviation, will be compensated. It will be a liability to you because you run over and above all this kind of arrangement. And if something for you is interrupted, you are answerable to your customer. They will not really know what has happened in the underlying infrastructure that you are using. Then whatever is the compensation that you have to pay, your SLA will cover you to some extent, because your cloud service provider has guaranteed you the service that you have subscribed, and that is giving you some kind of insurance, right? Something has gone on, definitely, yeah, you are covered as per SLA. If everything is a service, then for that service to be guaranteed, you will have service level agreement. That agreement will put some liability on the service provider. So we are paying something, means they are giving some kind of guarantee, and that guarantees will be covered under SLA. Even before you have to understand this concept SLA, it's essential that you have to know the service infrastructure here. Service infrastructure it's very easy to understand, because you can see, if you have to travel in a train or an aeroplane, you do not have to own an aeroplane. That is available as a travel service. You can go and book a ticket, and you can just travel and forget about it. It may cost 200 crores to buy a plane. You are least bothered about it. A train may be costing 30 to 40 crores. You are really not bothered about it. You only take one ticket and go. You are using it as a service, right? Same kind of infrastructure is here. The existing on-premise platform is like, you have to buy a aeroplane or build an aeroplane, or you have to build a train, and if you have to travel, Now the arrangement is like as a service, which means that you do not have to bother or worry about that, and you are just using it as a service. And if you are using it as a service, the train or the railway department may announce that you will reach your destination in 12 hours. If delay of 1 hour is acceptable, and if the delay is more than 1 hour, then I'll say delay is 14 hours. Then railway department says that I will return your entire ticket amount. This is a kind of SLA which the railways is offering you, right? The same kind of arrangement is here in the form of SLA. If you understand the service architecture here, then you can keep imagining in the real world setup how the things will get impacted. Because service for you may not realize it, but the company or your company, whoever is making use of that services, this is the value that they are getting. You can just imagine that you need to have a feel of it. Otherwise, you will not be able to put yourself in the cloud context. I'm sure that from here onwards, almost 90% of the teams will be having some form of cloud things which they'll be working on. So it's good that you know it, because it's a kind of grammar. If you have to speak any language, then you need to know the grammar, right? If you don't know the grammar, then you may not understand something correctly, or you may not communicate some things correctly. If you have to tell it, you may not. If you're not using proper grammar, then you may mean something else. If you don't know grammar, even if you can't understand someone speaking, you may understand it in the wrong way. This is a kind of grammar if you have to work in a modern day work setup, because most of them are adopting cloud. Got it? Still any doubts? Okay. Now we have software as a service. Software as a service. You have some applications like Salesforce, Office 365, and things like that. These are the softwares which are made available by, say, Office 365. They would have made this available. Recently, someone would have seen in the news that Outlook was not operational for almost 8 to 9 hours. Not operational for 9 hours. This is the most recent happening with the Microsoft. This is a kind of SLA violation which Microsoft would have had, and later on they would have given some kind of explanation to their customers saying that yes, this is the root cause why it happened. Yeah. So this is a software for which the service of which, so these are the software which is provided as service. We will be only owning the data as well as access the roles in it. You can refer to that picture that we have seen the other day. What is software as a service and who is liable for what? Here the roles and responsibilities, roles in the software, like Salesforce CR. You may create different roles and data. You may be generating a lot of data as a part of your day-to-day business activities. The roles, which means that your organization structure, the people involved, the stakeholders, you would have created some kind of login and given some level of access to them, and that will be taken care of by the authentication and authorization. Yeah. And data, you will have data generated, and that will be sitting somewhere in the database setup within that particular software. Nothing is visible to you. You really are not taking care of what went wrong, where is the configuration file, what is not working, why it is not working. Really, if Salesforce is not working, for an end user who is taking software as a service, just it is not working. There is some problem. They'll find the root cause and fix it. We are really not bothered about it because we are seeing it as a service. The remaining things will be abstracted away from us. What we are seeing is only service. We are really not bothered about the software team who is upgrading that, or the problems that we are facing on a day-to-day basis. And this is what is called as software as service. Okay. So I'll be covering these topics later on because these were planned for yesterday, but we didn't meet yesterday. So we will see if we could cover. These are not really, these are somewhat advanced concepts. After seeing the service infrastructure, we can cover this because this will come as a package along with the practical things. This is where the practical exposure starts. So I think we can postpone it to another day. So this will make you cover, comfortable, because as I was telling you, this is the essential grammar which any data engineer or aspiring data engineer, or for that matter, anyone, it may be DevOps or it may be cloud administrator or anyone who want to work with cloud, who want to get associated with the kind of cloud infrastructure, the modern day cloud. This is the essential grammar which you have to expose yourself, get adapted. You have to adopt this infrastructure. You have to get adapted. You may feel uncomfortable, but as the time passes, you have to make, you have to get used to it. This is the kind of thing which you can't, you really can't avoid it. There may be different kinds of keywords. Azure, we are seeing these are the kinds of keywords that we are having. Similar kind of infrastructure. Cloud means cloud. Everything is a service. Take Google or Amazon or Azure or any other thing. Only the terminologies may change, but the things at the very high level, how it works, is essentially the same. Infrastructure, platform, software. I think this is the same kind of thing because these are like umbrella terms. Umbrella terms means these are the terms which are common across industry, which will be encapsulating multiple offerings in that particular cloud infrastructure. Okay, I think you are good in terms of understanding about this. Okay. So now we'll categorize it. You may start making notes of it. Storage services in Azure. We'll see that segregation. We'll call a particular service and categorize that. Blob storage. That is a PaaS offering, platform as a service offering. Azure Data Lake Storage. Gen 1. This is also PaaS, platform as a service. You may have some questions in the interviews related to these terms. This is the service that you have, kind of storage service. As you know, BLOB is a binary large object, which is a terminology which have been used for storing the data which is in digital format, like music files, pictures, GIF, JPG, or video, or anything like that. Azure Data Lake Service Gen 2. That is also PaaS, Platform as a Service. Azure SQL. That is also PaaS. So I'll discuss the pros of all these arrangements. So you may be getting some clues from what is given here. Storage services. As you know, storage is not available to us as a kind of permanent provision. It is given as a service. As long as you pay, that is available to you. That is point number one in service. And there are some kind of service level agreements or guarantees by the cloud service provider, which means that if there is a failure of your storage, then SLA will have some kind of arrangements and coverages, and you have lot wide range of offerings within that particular cloud services. You should have heard about backups, redundancy, all kinds of things. Like if blob, if one data center is failed, then your blob will be made available from another data center. That is a kind of arrangement given by your service provider. Give me a moment, I'll come back and discuss. So one of the benefits of something as a service means, as I was telling you previously, you do not have to have a setup of kind of machines. To have a cloud arrangement, to have a block storage, definitely you don't need to have a VM engine or any of the services. You don't have to have. You can directly plug and play this. You can get block storage as a separate data instance of it. Take it. Start consuming it. Pay for what you use. Then you can get away once you are done. It means that want to start a company, set your digital information, and suddenly you want to stop your business. You can do it within 1 other day. Then you will get rid of all your digital information. So it's a kind of wonderful part for someone who really don't want to put huge money. If they need to have some kind of advanced infrastructure, especially this digital infrastructure. So this is the flexibility and benefit of having cloud. So a lot of things is there. It is scalable on demand. You are just
Pratap, I'm not hearing.
I think anyone else is having a problem because hello,
Yeah, yeah.
please let me know because this one person is telling that he is not able to hear.
Your idea is some kind of disturbance.
From my side,
Yes, sir.
give me
Now
a
you are clear. Now
you,
you are clear actually.
okay. Just give me a moment. I'm correct. Yeah, I have used headset. Probably all of you. Hello.
Yeah, now it is clear.
Yeah,
Yeah.
now your voice is clear.
Okay. Okay. So all of these are services, and they are guaranteed by SLAs. You could see that in action soon, probably tomorrow or day after tomorrow that we'll be seeing. So you can just imagine for time being the kind of benefits and advantages if they are available as a service here. Okay. So any kind of confusion in understanding, you can always pause me. You can always ask me to stop and elaborate. I'll do that. Now these are the storage services. Next, data integration services. Data integration services. Obviously, all of you know. Azure Data Factory, which is a platform as a service offering. This is a platform because if you build an ETL, that becomes a software. So if you are using an ETL directly, which is provided by Azure, then that will become SaaS. That particular instance of data factory ETL pipeline that you are using, that's a software which is offered by Azure. That you can call it as SaaS. But as a development environment, as such, if you are getting an instance of ADF, created, that you will call as platform as a service. Azure data bricks, that is also platform as a service. The benefit is all of these are scalable, including storages. You can scale it on demand. If your organization or your kind of organizational setup or your kind of business or the amount of data which you have or the amount of analytics that you have to do, if you have to extract more data from more information from the data that you have, you may want to scale these services on demand. That's one benefit, because on premise you don't have, after a certain amount of uh, demand, you would have exhausted your infrastructure, digital infrastructure. You don't have more physical computing or more physical storage available. You may have to again incur a lot of money to have some expanded capacity, and that will be staying forever with you. You have to put money and you will own that asset and keep maintaining that asset. Whereas on one particular day, imagine that you are having 100 more GB of data coming in, you can scale it, and then you can uh, you can make your compute demand contracted, and automatically the amount of assets allocated to you, that also will get reduced. That's a kind of elasticity and scalability, almost unlimited, available in cloud, Azure cloud or any cloud. This is a benefit. So you can just imagine a kind of advancement in the computing infrastructure as well as facilities which is available. This is a kind of pioneering solution, or which is not available. You would not have seen these kind of services till now, which is available right now. So some kind of awareness will definitely help you to appreciate why that has become a buzzword in the industry most recently, and why is it happening. Because a lot of companies are still trying to migrate. They are coming to terms with the fact that you will not really compete, you can't really compete unless you migrate your infrastructure to cloud, because all the competitors are going there. Definitely they may not realize, they may not really know how to make the best use of all the offerings over there, but definitely sooner or later they have to do it, otherwise they can't stay relevant. It's like, if someone are traveling in the bikes, and someone who is not aware or ignorant are still traveling in bicycles or by walk, and you can imagine their kind of disappointment when they compare themselves with the kind of benefit that someone who are using kind of higher infrastructure, they are able to save lot of minutes or hours during their commute, whereas the people who has not upgraded in terms of technology, they would be still lagging when compared to their peers. I think that means a lot in any kind of business setup, and it demands for you know upgrading yourselves to the available technology on that day. Contemporary or avant-garde, we call this avant-garde. Contemporary times or avant-garde. Can keep using these terms somewhere in your resumes or during your interview discussions. You should know the meanings of it. The most advanced group of that particular time. Say cloud is a most recent technology. People who are aware of this, who can build beautiful technologies on the cloud, that group of softwares or that team may be called as avant-garde, the most advanced team of that particular time. So the people who are aspiring to provide services using cloud, you can be part of this avant-garde. We are more relevant to our times, contemporary. Yeah. Azure Key Vault. Key vault is something like treasure. What will be treasured? Definitely our passwords or any certificates. If we have to put these passwords even in config file, if it is a on-premise setup, you would have seen some compliance teams are setting no, these passwords you should have encrypted and kept in the config file. That should not be readable to the naked eye. You should encrypt it in the config file. Every time there is a change in password, you have to encrypt the new password and put in the config file. This is the kind of setup which we have in the on-premise. This is the kind of maintenance that we need to have, because some password, some other upstream teams, upstream is the the software from which we are getting the data, if that upstream, if our system is connecting to the upstream system, and in the upstream system someone DBA would have changed the password and that we are not aware in the downstream system, then an issue may arise, a ticket may come saying that we are not able to pull the data. If you find the root cause, connections should be strings should be failing to establish a connection with your upstream system from where you will be fetching the data. Then you'll see, you will discover after discussion with the DBA that there is an expiry of the password and the new password has been created. They'll communicate that password to you. You have to encrypt and maintain that in the config file, and then you can start seeing your system working again. All of this has been automated here with the key vault. So if something is changed, that will be replicated in the key vault, and that will be automatically referred from the key vault. So key vault is a kind of arrangement where you can put your secrets at one single place and ensure them that is maintained. Logic apps. Logic app means you can have conditions programmed. Based on the conditions, you can have some alerts made available. You can have a kind of voice over internet protocol kind of things. If there is a failure of data factory ETL running that you are doing, you can program that to call you at that point of time in the somewhere in the middle of night. You may be in charge of maintaining data factory ETLs are working fine, and you are run the ETL and you came out of the system and there is a failure. Unless you go and log in after 1 hour, you can't see it is a failure. At that point when it has failed, you can program some alerts saying that someone from Azure, there may be automated voice response saying that they'll call and say that this is the pipeline which got failed. This may be the reason. That kind of alerts you will get over the phone or over the message or over the mail. So you can these are the things which are offered in Azure Data Factory ETL pipeline itself. And over and above that, if you need some other kind of orchestration, some kind of dependencies, you may have a lot of conditions, and based on a particular kind of condition, there may be a particular situation of problem that you are in. You can if your system running has suddenly landed into that exact kind of problem that you would have considered that as severity number 1, and you want to be notified, logic apps will help you to notify, program those notification and get the benefits of those alerts. Analytics services. Azure Data Lake Analytics. That is a software as a service offering. These are the categories at the outset. We have something called Spark clusters. Spark clusters are related to both Data Factory and Databricks, but these Spark clusters are infrastructure as a service. Because cluster is something which is bundle. Bundle means a group of it. You will have one master and some 5 or 6 servants, maybe we can program it. Spark cluster is infrastructure as a service, and VM, virtual machine. If there is a new team member joined in your team, you may want to give a virtual machine to your team member. Your virtual machine, if that is very near to your database in the same cloud, then as I was telling you the other day, you will not see the latency. So VM is sitting somewhere very near to your database. You are accessing VM from your lean client. That's a laptop. And your data is available within the bounds of your VM, which means that it is secure. If you are working for someone like Citibank or some insurance company, they will have the entire setup even for developers maintained in a VM. From this VM only, you will be able to connect with any of this. It's a kind of security arrangement. They don't want even a single bit of their data to be made available to the outside world, because everything here is a secret. It will be very closely guarded. Yeah. So it's more than an hour now. So you just let me know how convenient you are, so that we can continue, or else we will have our next session tomorrow, wherein I'll be discussing these topics and I'll be showing them in the practical implementation part. I'll be discussing these details, like how we are having redundancy and resilience, scalability, how that arrangement is made in terms of Google Cloud or Azure Cloud infrastructure in our case. So this is where I would like to take a pause and listen from you. Any kind of doubts or anything that you want to know more, or any confusions, let me know. I'll clarify.
Uh, Hi, brother. These are the topics. All means these under means in the data engineering sector. These all the topics will be covered, or only for the data factory.
This is what we will cover the storages as well as the uh, integration services.
Okay,
These
for
are
the
the
data.
things, yeah, these are the things which is of important to us. To some
Okay.
extent, keyword also will be used, because if you have to attend an interview, they will ask you how are you able to establish a connection with any data source. If it is secured, if it is having some kind of ID and password, how are you able to do that? Then your answer should be that I am connecting with a keyword. My secrets are there in the keyword, and I used to connect to the keyword, see the secrets. My application makes use of them to access or establish a connection with the data source, and then we are reading the data from the upstream systems. Then we are able to perform the analytics that we think of. Those kind of things that you have to discuss. Azure Data Lake or Delta Lake, then you can imagine this is also some kind of buzzword now. Lot of benefits are there. Lot of interviewers may be interested to ask at least 20 to 30 minutes of questions only on Azure Data Lake. They'll start with their first question. Do you know Azure Data Lake? Have you worked on it? How comfortable are you? How would you rate yourself? These are the kind of common questions to know if you really know this technology. And then they will start testing you with some kind of simple questions that will graduate to intermediate and kind of high level questions. And then they'll kind of make a imagery about you, about your technical or professional experience. Okay, if you don't have any doubts, we'll conclude today's class. Thank you.
Hello, brother.
Hello,
Hello. Am I
Omkar.
audible? Yeah.
Yeah, Omkar, tell me, Omkar.
I have one doubt. Like, I am Power BI developer from last 2 years,
Cloud.
and I have one doubt.
Okay.
So I am Power BI developer from last 2 years. I
Okay.
don't have that much experience on SQL side.
SQL Server.
SQL side, I don't know that much SQL. Like, I know the basic only.
Okay. You can connect
So
with the institute. I think the institute people are running another SQL class. That
No, so
guy,
it is good to like go for data factory directly, or I need to like brush up my knowledge in SQL.
I think only very simple SQL is required. You need not have to have an
Yeah,
expertise
basic
knowledge
knowledge
in
I have.
SQL. If you have basic knowledge, I think that is sufficient. A simple select statement will help us, or an aggregate statement would help us to get the
Okay,
data.
actually, I want to transform my like my resume to a data factory only. That's why I'm like joining this class.
Yeah, but I
So
think it
I
is
am in
good
doubt.
to see. I'll tell you one thing. Even if a guy is experienced in data engineering for 12 years or 20 years or anything it may be, first thing that they expect in the interview is SQL. Even if any company is planning to have 2 to 3, this I think this I told in my previous class. If any company is trying to have an interview with you, they first will try to assess you in SQL. They'll simply ask you to write questions, write some SQL statements, select statements. They'll give you some sample tables. They'll say this is the kind of data that I want to see. You write a query. If you are able to write first 5 to 6, then they'll put a remark saying that this guy is very strong in SQL. That's the kind of feedback that they'll pass. It's not about this particular course, but for the job per se, because I have seen a lot of interviews. I myself have interviewed a lot of people. The first thing that for a data engineer, even if you say that you know a lot of cloud and all that stuff, first thing that they'll ask is SQL queries. You have to be comfortable. I think you should make it as a practice on daily or weekly basis. Only then you'll be comfortable to crack an interview.
Okay.
This kind of indispensable thing, which means that life of a data engineer, as a data engineer, you can't survive without SQL. Any further questions? We'll call it a day or closing it. Okay. Thank you.